Assalamualaikum. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about the ecosystems. What are the ecosystems? What are their different properties? Then we are also going to talk about the basic components of an ecosystem. And then we are going to talk about some examples of different ecosystems from the world and from Pakistan. We start with our today's lecture. Ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? Ecosystem is an area in which the living factors or the biotic factors are living in interaction with each other and with their physical and chemical environment, that is the abiotic factors. Usually ecosystems consist of a specific type of climate in which all the biotic factors, that is the living components, are well settled in their environment, and the physical factors support the presence of a particular type of life in that area. So ecosystem is an area, a specific part of the world where a biotic community, we can say the biotic factors, are living in interaction with each other and with their physical and chemical environment, that is the abiotic factors. Now there are many types of ecosystems, mainly divided into two major categories: aquatic and terrestrial. Aquatic ecosystems are those which are present in the waters, in the oceans, in the seas, and sometimes lakes, small lakes, very large lakes, ponds. Because we know that a very major part of the world consists of water. So water supports different kinds of life. Then comes the terrestrial ecosystems. Terrestrial ecosystems are the ecosystems present on land. As we know that land is also diverse. We have different types of lands on mountains, in the valleys, the deserts, those areas which are covered with snow all the year, like the Arctic area, and so on. So terrestrial ecosystems, they are also very diverse in their forms. So ecosystems, if we widely divide them, we can divide them into two categories: aquatic, present in water; terrestrial, present on land. Now we are going to talk about basic components of an ecosystem. What are the basic components of an ecosystem? If we widely divide the components of an ecosystem, we can divide them into two: the biotic components, the living factors, or in other words, the living organisms, and the abiotic factors, or the non-living factors. For example, water, temperature, air, light. The biotic factors include the plants, the animals, the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, the algae, all of the living organisms. So we divide the components of an ecosystem into biotic and abiotic, living and non-living. Now first we talk about the biotic components. Biotic, the living components of an ecosystem. Living components, when they are further divided into subgroups, we divide them according to the energy flow. We know that all the energy which is entering into an ecosystem is coming through sunlight. Sunlight brings the energy, and the plants or some other organisms which can carry out a specific process called photosynthesis can use the sunlight energy and convert it into chemical form of energy and food in the form of carbohydrates. This food and this energy then flows into whole of the living part of ecosystem, from plants to animals, for example, and from animals to fungi, the other decomposers. We divide the biotic components by this process we call the trophic levels, that is the feeding levels, different feeding levels in an ecosystem. Because we know that feeding or energy flow, this is the major property of life. According to the trophic levels, we divide organisms, the living organisms, into three major categories: the producers, the consumers and the decomposers. Producers, for example, plants, algae. Consumers, for example, the animals, and the decomposers, the fungi and the bacteria. Producers, the plants, algae, few bacteria, some protista, unicellular organisms. We call them producers because they have a capability to convert the sunlight energy by the photosynthesis process and another process called Calvin cycle into the chemical form of energy that is utilized by the living organisms for their life processes, and they can also convert inorganic carbon molecules and make organic carbon molecules for their own use and for the use by the consumers. We make energy pyramids or food pyramids in the ecosystem. The slide shows that the producers are at the base of the energy pyramid or the food pyramid. Producers, the plants, they are much more in their numbers because they have to produce food, and of course they also have to sustain themselves for producing more food. At the next level comes the consumers. The animals, for example, they have to consume the food produced by the producers. So their number is less than that of producers because they have to eat upon producers and the producers have to sustain for supporting the animal life form. If they eat up all the producers, then what will happen? They will die. So consumers, their number is less than that of producers. Then comes the third part, the decomposers. These are very important. Some the fungi and some bacteria, they are decomposers. They decompose the organic matter. For example, the dead bodies of plants and animals. They also decompose or break down the, for example, for different parts of organisms' body. For example, the fallen branches of the trees, the fallen leaves of the trees. जैसा कि हमें पता है कि ख़ज़ां में दरख्तों के पत्ते गिर जाते हैं और उनकी शाखें, जो छोटी छोटी शाखें होती हैं, वो भी गिर जाती हैं और वो उसी दरख्त के नीचे और उसके इर्द गिर्द ज़मीन पर एक पूरा बेड बना देती हैं. आहिस्ता आहिस्ता वो मिट्टी का हिस्सा बन जाती हैं और यहाँ पर फंजाई और कुछ बैक्टीरिया होते हैं जो इनको तोड़ फोड़ कर इनको बहुत छोटे पार्ट्स में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं और अल्टीमेटली इनसे डिफरेंट टाइप के ऑर्गेनिक और इनऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड्स बना देते हैं. ये कंपाउंड्स प्लांट्स अपनी फूड के तौर पे यूज़ कर सकते हैं. प्लांट्स अपने गिरे हुए पार्ट्स को डायरेक्टली इस्तेमाल नहीं कर सकते. इसकी बजाय वो बैक्टीरिया के कन्वर्ट किए हुए छोटे छोटे पार्ट्स को, जो कि कंपाउंड्स की शक्ल में होते हैं, इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. तो डीकम्पोजर्स का बहुत अहम रोल है. द रोल ऑफ डीकम्पोजर्स इज एक्चुअली टू कन्वर्ट द डेड ऑर्गेनिक मैटर, मे बी a fallen part of a plant, maybe the dead body of an animal or a plant, and they convert it into smaller molecules, smaller compounds which could be utilized by the producers, plants, again through the soil, and then they become part of the somehow part of the plant's body, and then it comes back to the consumers and then to the decomposers and back to the producers. So a cycle continues like this. So the producers, they mix food and they convert the energy coming through sunlight into chemical energy, and they convert inorganic carbon molecules into the organic carbon molecules. Without the producers, no life. Plants are necessary for supporting life. Also, photosynthetic bacteria are necessary for life. The algae, they are also required for life. We look at another pyramid. This pyramid shows a further leveling of different types of organisms. We can see at the base there is a grass. Producers, they utilize the sunlight, make carbohydrates, makes energy. These are eaten up by the herbivore animals, the animals which actually eat upon the plants. Then we also call them primary consumers. Then there are certain next level the organisms which eat upon the primary consumers, the herbivores, which eat the herbivores. For example, cows eats grass and lion eats the cows. Grass is producer, cow is primary consumer, lion is secondary consumer. Sometimes there are tertiary consumers. We also can call them secondary carnivores, which eat upon other carnivores. For example, there are rats or mice or frogs or sometimes grasshoppers which eat up the grass. Then a mouse, for example, eat upon that grasshopper. A snake eat upon the mouse, and an eagle eats upon the snake. So an eagle is actually eating a snake which have already eaten a mouse, and a mouse had eaten a grasshopper, and grasshopper had eaten grass. So the eagle is a tertiary consumer. We also can call it a secondary carnivore. That is the carnivore which is eating another carnivore. In ecosystems, lot many chains and pyramids like this do exist. These are actually relationships between different feeding levels. We call them pyramids because their shape, when we make them in the form of numbers, they are in the form of a pyramid. That is, producers more, they have to support a consumer like the herbivores. Then comes carnivores. Carnivores number is fewer than the herbivores. Then comes the secondary carnivores. Their number is also less than that of the primary carnivores, and so on. So these are the ecological pyramids, the relationship between the biotic factors according to their feeding levels. Producers include many photosynthetic bacteria. Producers includes algae. Producers includes plants, all of the plants. Without those plants, no life is possible. They do photosynthesis, utilizes carbon dioxide and water and sunlight energy, and makes energy in the chemical form, that is usually called ATP, the adenosine triphosphate, and makes carbohydrates for the use by themselves and for the use for the consumers. We call the producers the entry point of energy inside an ecosystem. Let us have a look on some plants. You can see in this picture that plants are growing on a rock on the bank of a river. Then comes the consumers. These are the second level of feeding, or we can call second trophic level. But these are themselves divided into further levels as we looked at in a pyramid. Consumers utilizes organic carbon source. They can eat upon plants or they can eat upon other animals. Consumers utilizes the carbohydrates produced by the plants. Their types are primary, secondary and tertiary consumers. Primary consumers which eat upon plants. We also call them herbivores. Then comes the secondary consumers. We also call them carnivores. They eat upon the herbivore animals. Then comes tertiary consumers which eat upon the other carnivores. Then we have another category called omnivores. We say herbivores, the organisms, the animals which feed upon plants, the carnivores, the animals which feed upon other animals, the omnivores which eat upon both plant and animal material. For example, human beings, we are omnivores. We eat vegetables, plants. We also eat meat, the animals. So omnivores are the organisms who can feed upon both animal and plant sources. They can, if they get animal, they can eat animal and its parts. If they get plant for their food, they can get plant for their as their food. Few animals, you can see a red panda in this picture, which is eating some leaves of a tree. So it's a herbivore. An elephant, a very huge and large animal, but it also feed upon the plants. It's a vegetarian animal. A consumer, a cat, it is eating, you can see in the picture that it is eating a bone. Bones, you know, are the part of animal's body. So it's a carnivore. Then you can see another carnivore, an eagle, which is attacking upon a pigeon. Pigeon, we know, eats grains. So pigeon is a plant eater and the eagle is a Carnivore, that is the meat eater, which is eating upon the pigeon. Omnivores, bears. Bears can eat both plant and animal matter. If they get an animal to eat, a small animal, they eat upon it. If they get plants, legumes or other plants, they eat upon the plants. So they are also omnivore like us. Then comes the decomposers. Decomposers are two major groups. One are called fungi. Fungi is a major group which particularly eat upon the dead organic matter. Then there are many types of bacteria which are present in soil, in water and other places, which break up the dead organic matter and utilize it for making their own food and energy, and then they convert those organic matters into small organic molecules. These small organic molecules are later utilized by the plants. Plants actually absorb those inorganic or organic matters from the soil with the help of their roots, and the roots gets those materials and make them part of the plant body. So decomposers are extremely important because number one, they convert all the dead organic matter which is present in large quantities otherwise and could be accumulated and could be bad for environment. They convert those dead organic materials into more usable forms and more better forms for the environment. So decomposers, and secondly, decomposers convert the materials into usable forms which are used by the plants. So a cycle continues, and energy in the ecosystem which is coming through sunlight, through producers, keep flowing in the form of a cycle. Now the abiotic components. There are many abiotic components, that is non-living components present in an ecosystem. The abiotic components, the non-living components, for example, water, light, air, soil. Water, for example, is one of the most important abiotic components of an ecosystem. Water is a limiting factor for the growth and for development of life, because we know that water is required for all the life forms to live, to continue their life processes. Water is involved to support life. For example, plants, when they are growing, they need water. For converting energy from one form to another form, they need water. Animals need to drink water. For their metabolic process, they require water. Water is part of their body. Light is also a very important factor, because we know that all the energy which is coming inside the ecosystem is coming in the form of sunlight. Sunlight have energy which is utilized by the plants to make their chemical energy that they can use, because sunlight energy they cannot use directly, they have to convert it into some chemical form of energy, and also plants utilize the sunlight energy to make their food by photosynthesis and the carbon cycle. Then air. Air is also a very important factor, because most of the times air manages the temperature of the environment, and air currents are also responsible for different processes of life. For example, distribution of spores of a plant, it depends upon many times air currents. Then soil. Soil is very important abiotic factor, because soil is the place to support the plant life and the animal life. Particularly, plants grow in specific types of soils. Soils have their own properties. They have their particle size. They have pores in it. Different types of soils have different pore sizes in themselves, and these pores accommodate water. These pores accommodate gases, and the soil also have different types of bacteria which convert or decompose the organic matters. So soil is also a very important abiotic factor. Then comes rain. Rain is also a very important factor, because when the water bodies, they evaporates and the water go in the atmosphere in the form of vaporized water and makes clouds, then it causes the raining. Rain is very important because it provides a runoff water which is available to plants and to other life forms, for example, for animals for their drinking. and for supporting the plant life in the soil. So abiotic factors, they are as important as the biotic factors, living organisms, the animals, the plants in an ecosystem. Let us have a brief look on a picture, on a diagram, which shows that how energy flowing in an ecosystem and how abiotic factors are interaction with the biotic factors. You can see on a side a water body from which through evaporation water is going towards the atmosphere due to the heat of sunlight. That water, these water vapors collect and condense in the atmosphere to make clouds, and these clouds, when they rain, then they produce a rain. This rain is returning that water back to the environment. You can see the rain on the mountains, and then the rainwater is coming down, and this water is supporting a lot of life, different types of plants, different types of animals, and then slowly this runoff water is going down, down, down back to the same place from where it was evaporated. And then you can see that there are different types of plants which are utilizing the sunlight energy to make their food, and then these plants are eaten up by the animals. Those animals are eaten up by the other animals. You can see a bird, and then all of these organisms are going back when they die or they shed their parts like plants. They are going back to the soil, and the decomposer in the soil, they are breaking them up into smaller pieces, very, very small molecules, organic and inorganic molecules, which are again taken up by the plants, make the part of their body, and then they come back to the cycle. Here you can see a desert ecosystem. Now we are going to cover some examples of different types of ecosystems in the world and in Pakistan. There are two terms, climate and weather. Weather is a short-term change in any of the abiotic factor like temperature. For example, we know that temperature of the day is different and of the night is different. The seasonal changes are there. The climate actually represent long-term changes in environmental factors. For example, due to greenhouse effect, we know the temperature of the earth has risen to about 1 to 2 degrees centigrade. So climate represent long-term changes in an environment, and the climate of an area is responsible for making different types of ecosystems and let them develop and grow. We divide ecosystems into two major categories, the aquatic ecosystems and the terrestrial ecosystems. Aquatic ecosystems present in water, and terrestrial ecosystems present on land. Now we are going to talk about the aquatic ecosystems. Aquatic ecosystems present in water. We know that these ecosystems which are present in water, the water have to support the life, and all the factors which are affecting upon the water will be affecting the living forms, the life forms. Water have certain specific properties. Aquatic ecosystem, whether it consists of a marine ecosystem, that is the sea, or it is a freshwater ecosystem like a pond or a lake or maybe a stream, water is the major component. These are some important characteristics of water which are responsible for supporting life or for the presence of a specific form of life inside that ecosystem. Water changes its temperature slowly. Water do not change its temperature like air quickly. Now this is a property which is helpful or more appropriate for life, because sudden changes and quick changes in temperature are difficult for organisms to accommodate. So it means that water is a good or more supportive form of an ecosystem for the organisms and for the life. This is the reason that most of the waters, lakes, the oceans, seas, they have a huge biodiversity in themselves. Water absorbs considerable amount of light energy. Water, even a very clear water or even a very unclear water, they absorb a considerable form of energy in the form of light, the sunlight. And that sunlight, we know, is the entry point of energy in an ecosystem. This is the reason that many plants and other organisms which can carry out photosynthesis can sustain their life in the water very well. But there is a problem with it, that in the upper layers of water, light penetration is always good, but in the lower layers of water, usually light penetration is reduced. This is a problem for living organisms because in the lower parts of the water body, ocean or a lake or a pond, light penetration is less than its we can say its normal level, and maybe this is not supportive for photosynthesis to occur. And if this is difficult to carry out the photosynthesis, then the producers will not be able to make food and they will not be able to make energy. This will result in no energy in the coming in the ecosystem, and the result will be a dead ecosystem ultimately. There is another thing, that nutrients are usually concentrated at bottom, because everything which is present in an ecosystem, in a water ecosystem, the organisms, their parts like fallen leaves of the plants or the dead organisms, all of them will go and settle into the bottom. So bottom is rich in nutrients. Water, the bottom have not much organic nutrients. Mostly the beds of the water ecosystems have good diverse life forms. Water is abundantly available in this ecosystem. The benefit, water is a limiting factor. This is very, very important. And because ecosystem itself consists of water, so water is abundantly available. So aquatic ecosystems are usually very, very supportive for life forms. But just there is a problem on the base, then the light penetration is low. We take an example of a freshwater lake. Freshwater lakes, they vary in nutrients, in the physical conditions and their depths. Freshwater lakes sometimes may be very deep, several meters deep. Sometimes they are quite shallow, but they have, and life which is present inside the lakes is according to the conditions present in a lake. If we consider a lake, it consists of three major zones. Zones of a lake are littoral zone, the limnatic zone, and the profundal zone. Littoral zone is the zone of shallow water, the water from the bank of that particular lake and going down towards the depth, but which is still shallow. In the shallow water, this is the benefit that light penetrates till the bottom. The photosynthetic organisms can grow very well in this particular area. So there is a rich diversity of organisms present inside this zone. Phytoplanktons, which are small organisms which are photosynthetic, and they can produce food and they can convert sunlight energy into chemical energy. And then the consumers, the zooplanktons, small animal forms which eat upon the phytoplankton, the plant-like organisms. And then the fishes, which can eat upon both of these. Then the carnivore fishes, which can eat upon those herbivore fishes. Then comes the next zone. When the lake is deep, it consists of two major zones, limnatic zone and the profundal zone. Limnatic zone, the topmost layer, in which the penetration of sunlight is sufficient to support photosynthesis. Again, the plant life exists, and the phytoplanktons, the plant-like organisms, they exist a lot. They are very diverse. They carry out photosynthesis and they produce food, and they also produce the energy for other life forms. Then there are other organisms like crustaceans, small insects, the water insects, which feed upon the phytoplanktons, or some plants. We have submerged plants like for example lotus, जो कवल के फूल होते हैं, कवल का जो पौधा जिसको हम कहते हैं the lotus, their leaves are on the top and their branches are inside. So different types of other plants like this which are fully or partially submerged, they are present in this zone and they can carry out photosynthesis very well. And there are zooplankton which eat upon these like insects, small crustaceans, And then there are fish, the herbivore fish, which eat upon these plants, and there may be large size fish or maybe the carnivore fish which hunt upon these fishes which are herbivore. So there is a long food chain. There are diverse forms of life present in the limnatic zone. Then comes the profundal zone. This is the zone at the depth. In this zone, from depth to the bottom, say about middle of the lake to the bottom of the lake, in this zone, light penetration is not good enough to support photosynthesis. So this is difficult for the producers to live in this particular area. In this particular area, a specific type of organisms, particularly the bacteria, can live, which are called chemotrophs. These bacteria can convert inorganic chemicals and utilize the energy present in the inorganic chemicals to make their food and their energy. We call them chemotrophs. They do not require sunlight as energy source, rather they use inorganic chemicals or sometimes organic chemicals as their energy source and convert these into chemical form of energy and their food. We call them chemotrophs. Then the decomposers can survive very well in this zone, because we know that the bottom of the lake will have all of the dead parts of the organisms. They will have all the dead organisms settled in their on their base. So the decomposers can survive very well in this last zone, the profundal zone. So this is also rich in biodiversity. It have more of decomposers, more of the animal-like organisms, we can say, and more of the chemotrophs. So a lake is divided into these three zones: shallow zone, the deep zone, and deep zone is further divided into the top layer, limnatic zone, in which light penetration is good, and the profundal zone, the base zone, in which light penetration is not sufficient to support the photosynthesis. And in all of these zones, the life, which are the living organisms which are present, are just according to these properties of these areas. Now the human interference. Human always interfere with the ecosystems. Humans, because water bodies are always we can say interfered or enriched by human we can say produced materials. The agricultural runoff waters, जब हम अपनी ज़राअत करते हैं तो अपना सारा पानी जो है वो अल्टीमेटली बहा देते हैं वाटर बॉडीज़ की तरफ, दरिया में फेंक देते हैं या उसको पाउंड्स में डाल देते हैं या फिर उसको लेक्स की तरफ बहा देते हैं. So when humans enter their different types of runoffs, even the industrial wastewaters, we throw all the industrial wastewaters into the rivers and the lakes. These results in a situation called eutrophication. This results in a very huge growth of some cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria are also called blue-green algae, which carry out photosynthesis, because in the top layer the light energy is available in excess. So they grow very well. When they grow very quick, they produce a scum on the surface of the water body. That is, they grow so much that they cover the surface of the water body, and this results in no oxygen, almost no or very less quantity of oxygen penetrating inside, and the availability of food to the other producers is also affected. Availability of sunlight to the other producers is also affected because the surface is covered. The result is that all the other plants, the animal life forms, the crustaceans, the fish, they start dying. And in some time, the life forms other than these cyanobacteria, they die. When they die, they go and settle into the bottom. When they go and settle into the bottom, then more and more decomposers, they grow inside. When they grow inside, they break up all these dead organic bodies, dead materials, the bodies of the organisms. They even provide more food for these cyanobacteria and the other decomposers. The result is destruction of the habitat. which results in, we can say, destruction of the whole ecosystem. Only a few types of life forms are then present there, and all the other lives, the diversity of life is gone, and this results in instability of the ecosystem, and the whole ecosystem is destroyed. There are many lakes in the world, and ponds usually, which are destroyed like this. Now we are going to talk about the terrestrial ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystems are the ecosystems present on land. As we know that evolution theory says that life was existing initially in waters, and then it was transferred to land. The organisms adapted certain characteristics in transition from water to land. The animals, they produce skeleton. Skeleton is the hard framework of the body that supports actually organisms on the land. In the plants, they have vascular bundles. These vascular bundles also provides them sort of a skeleton, which allow them to stand straight on the earth. The second important thing is this, that water is essential for life, and water is not very sufficient in a land or in a terrestrial ecosystem. So water is a limiting factor. All the organisms, plants and animals, adapted to conserve water to the maximum. Now we talk about some major terrestrial ecosystems. Terrestrial ecosystems are divided into 4 major categories throughout the world. Forest ecosystem. Forest ecosystem is itself further divided into some different types: the tropical rainforests, the temperate deciduous forests, and the coniferous, alpine and boreal forests. The second type is a grassland ecosystem, जिन्हें हम चरागाहें, कुदरती चरागाहें कहते हैं. Then comes the desert ecosystems, and then comes the tundra. Tundra, very cold ecosystems. So terrestrial ecosystems are divided into 4 categories: the forests, the grasslands, the deserts and the tundra. Pakistan is rich in biodiversity and rich in ecosystems. We are present in that area where we have forests, we have grasslands, we have deserts, and even we have tundra. Let us have a look on our slide, which shows that which type of ecosystem is present in which area. The major ecosystems in Pakistan. Pakistan has a variety of climate and variety of seasons. We have these main ecosystems: the temperate deciduous forests, which are present in Shugra and Neelam Valley, the very beautiful green forests in which the plants shed their leaves, and their leaves changes color in a specific season. खज़ां में जैसे पत्तों के रंग जो है वो change हो जाते हैं. They look so beautiful, and then they shed their leaves and change their leaves in spring again. These are present in Shugra and Neelam Valley. The coniferous, alpine and boreal forests, these are comparatively colder forests. These are present in Kaghan, in the Malam Jabba in Swat, in Dir and in Chilas areas. Then the grassland ecosystems, these are present in Gilgit, in Kashmir, Waziristan, in Chitral, Kalat. We have rich grasslands. We have some very important and very huge deserts. We have deserts in Miyawali, in Bhakkar, in Bahawalnagar, Bahawalpur, and many more areas. We have 3 important deserts called Thal, Thar and Cholistan. Thal, which is present in on the Miyawali Bhakkar side, Thar, which is present in the Sindh, the province of Sindh, and the Cholistan, which is the desert near Bahawalpur. Then we also have the tundra, the ecosystem which is present on the tops of the mountains, very cold, extremely cold, have freezing temperatures. These are present in Pakistan, in the mountains of Karakoram and the Hindu Kush. So it means that Pakistan is rich in ecosystems, in their types and in biodiversity, because we have almost all types of climates and we have almost all types of the weathers, the seasons. Now we briefly talk about different types of terrestrial ecosystems and their properties. We talk about the temperate deciduous forests, for example. These are the forests which are present in Southeast Asia, in India, parts of North America, China, Japan and Pakistan. These are the areas which are the areas of moderate temperature. Temperature is usually from 4 to 30 degrees centigrade, a temperature that is good and supportive for life. The rainfall is also good. It is from 750 to 1500 millimeters annually. It's a good rainfall. Different types of plants grow in this area. We call them mostly deciduous plants, the plants which shed their leaves in fall. There are plants which are called taxus, pinus, barbaris, different types of ferns, grasses, herbaceous plants. There is a wide diversity of plants present in this particular climate. There are many animals present. In Pakistan particularly, we have rhesus monkeys, we have leopards, we have black bears present in those areas. We have different types of birds which inhabit those areas. The soil of these forests is very fertile and rich in nutrients because we have much of biodiversity and we have a good temperature to support life. Soil is very fertile and rich. The human interference comes here. Humans collect firewood from this area, those people who are living there. Also, some people cut wood for furniture or for use in buildings. Some people hunt animals. Animal hunting also have its effect, and the wood cutting also have its effect on the ecosystem. Because if we cut wood and we do not replace it with newer plants growing, then this may result in loss of habitat, and then many other organisms, for example animals living on those trees, will become homeless and they may die or they may migrate. If the animals are hunted, for example if the carnivores are hunted, then all of those animals on which those carnivores were feeding will increase in number. When they increase in number, they may kill more small animals, or maybe they eat upon all the grass of that particular part of ecosystem. So the whole ecosystem gets disturbed if some of its components are disturbed. And human interference is particularly hunting animals, and this is about cutting woods. We can manage it if we replace. If we are cutting a tree, we are planting 5 or 10 trees. Then we are balancing. If we are not doing it, we are going to destroy the ecosystem. The picture in front of you shows a temperate deciduous forest in North America. Now we talk about the coniferous forests, the coniferous, alpine and boreal forests. These are the forests which have lower temperature. Temperature is from freezing to 10 degrees centigrade. This is more hostile or harsh for life. So specific life forms can exist. The plants which are living in an area in this type of climate, in this type of forest, are usually evergreen plants. These plants have a specific type of leaves which are needle-like and which are covered with a waxy surface. These leaves can survive in these harsh environments. These leaves actually help these plants to survive in these harsh environments, and they do not shed their leaves. So we call them evergreen, always green. Pinus species grow here. They have specific waxy needle-like leaves to survive. Highly adaptive animal species can survive in these ecosystems, like Marco Polo sheep, bisons and wolves, black bears in Pakistan, in the coniferous alpine and boreal forests in Pakistan. Human disturbance is comparatively less because these areas are less accessible. These are on the tops of mountains, and these are very cold, so usually human interference is less. But again, the human interference is same as that of deciduous forest, that is hunting and cutting the wood. Have a look on a picture of a coniferous boreal forest. We can see long coniferous trees. Then the grassland ecosystem. Charagahein, kudrati charagahein. The grasslands. These are present in Pakistan in various areas, Chitral, Gilgit, Kashmir. These are present in Eurasian countries in the world, in North America. There are two major types of the grasslands called prairies and savanna. Prairies are those grasslands in which woodless trees exist. Savanna are those grasslands in which the woody trees they exist. Australia, for example, is rich in prairies, and this is the reason that Australia have a very good livestock. Pakistan is also quite rich in these grasslands, and this is the reason we also have a good livestock in those areas. The rainfall in these areas is about 250 to 750 millimeters annually. So water is a crucial factor. The plants and the organisms, the animals which survive in this type of ecosystem are those which can tolerate less quantities of water. Mostly the grasses grow there, the tall grasses, the short grasses, legumes, herbs, mosses, lichens. Though these ecosystems, they have a water shortage comparatively, but they do have a rich biodiversity because organisms which are living here are highly adaptive to this type of situation. There is also a rich animal biodiversity in these regions, which includes the reptiles, different types of lizards, amphibians, mammals. There are a lot many decomposers like fungi and bacteria present in these ecosystems. Human impact is important in this ecosystem because usually human use these for their livestock, because these are natural areas where the animals can grow very well. कुदरती चरागाहें हैं. We use them for our livestock, for feeding our livestock. We also use these areas for agriculture. This is very important that because water is a limiting factor and specific types of plants can grow in this area, if there is an overgrazing, for example, if there is a specific area in a grassland and we are keeping too many animals and they eat upon all the grass, or they are eating much more than the production of grass naturally occurs, then this may result in destruction of the ecosystem. Because grasses and these plants, the tall and short grasses and the legumes and herbs and mosses and other plants, they grow comparatively slower because water is a limiting factor. If animals are too much and they eat upon all of these, then what will be remaining to eat? So this may result in destruction of the ecosystem, and many times it happens. And then regrowing that ecosystem is again a long process. Because of human interference, these ecosystems could be more easily disturbed in comparison to the forests, which are less accessible. Here you can see in the picture a grassland in China, which looks very rich in its grasses. Then comes the desert ecosystem. Pakistan have different deserts, Thar, Thal, Cholistan. In the world, there are a lot many different deserts. Desert is an ecosystem which have a hot and dry climate. Rainfall is about 25 to 50 millimeters. There are perennial plants, there are cacti. The plants have specific properties because water is too short. Plants have specific types of leaves and stems which are succulent, which store water in themselves. The animals which lives in these areas, the deserts, they adapted specific mechanisms to overcome the shortage of water. For example, a very dilute urine or almost solid feces, solid nitrogenous waste. For example, the kangaroo rats, different types of reptiles and birds can survive this area. The human interference actually converts different areas into deserts. We call it desertification. The grasslands and the other ecosystems, if lot many, for example, in a grassland, if we keep too much livestock, then they can eat upon all the grasses and ultimately that area could be converted into a desert. So deserts are, we say that in the world, are increasing because the other areas are by human interference usually converting into deserts. We call it desertification. Some plants in a desert area, we can see they have very thick leaves. These are normal cacti that we usually grow in our lawns. Then tundra, very cold, snowy ecosystems. These are the ecosystem, for example, in Pakistan present on the tops of Hindu Kush and Karakoram. They have small perennial flowers because temperature is too low. There is a snow cover. In these areas, in small perennial plants, mosquitoes grow very well. And birds are also present in quite larger quantities because they feed upon the mosquitoes. There are white bears, there are foxes, there are snow leopards, for example. Human interference is less. In this ecosystem, human interference can very easily destroy the whole ecosystem. But fortunately, these areas are not in excess of human beings. There are few people which can go in these areas and disturb them. So this is a fortunate happening that these are not very accessible. Let's have a look on pictures, some pictures of tundra. You can see the tops of the mountains, a snow cover in the winters. We can see a yak, a specific animal. We can see it is covered fully with hairs from all sides. White bears also survive in this ecosystem. White bears also have lot much hairs and a thick layer of fat on their body which protect them from cold. So this was about different types of ecosystems in the world and in Pakistan. Now have a look on some pictures taken from different ecosystems in Pakistan. A very rich diversified forest in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area. Human interference. People visit there, enjoy the nature, but they spread these dirty things. So human interference can disturb the ecosystems, and this may result sometimes in destruction of the ecosystem ultimately. You can see another effect of human interference. Monkeys which are present actually in lower areas, they come up towards mountains because human beings provide them food, and this result in leopards coming behind these monkeys on the tops towards human places, because these leopards then, because monkeys come up, they do not have food and they follow monkeys and they come up. और फिर वो हमारी बकरियां खा जाते हैं. You can see monkeys playing, but there is too much of dirt. Another effect of human beings, black bear, which was present in quite large numbers in these forests, but now this become extinct due to hunting because of its beautiful fur. People killed it, and now it is extinct. This is not present in that particular area. You can see different trees. You can see a tree which is called a snag. Actually, this is a tree which is actually destroyed due to lightning. Then this tree become the habitat for different types of birds. So this was about the ecosystem, its biotic components, its abiotic components, and examples of different ecosystems of the world and of Pakistan. In this lecture, we covered the biodiversity of ecosystems, and we looked upon their relationship with the abiotic factors. We will meet in the next lecture. Thank you.